So first of all, I'd like to thank you all for accepting this talk in English and for the invitation to come here today. I'd like to make sure that everybody knows this isn't one of those talks where you turn off your phone. Everyone must keep their phone on, and please use social media and tweet and share your experiences here and ask questions one another about my talk. Please don't try and take notes during this talk. The organisers are so thought-leading in this area that they're video recording all of this, but also all my slides are already available on SlideShare, and all the links to all the things that I will show you. Not only can you come up afterwards and ask me to get hands-on with this technology, but you'll also be able to find out about this for yourselves. So just a quick introduction to myself and my company. The company's called 3G Doctor. The talk is about an introduction to mHealth. It's going to give you an idea of the landscape, how the world's moving, and some of the innovations that we're seeing in this area from launching our experience, launching a mobile healthcare service. My first memory in life was the sound of telecoms in healthcare. And it seems to have formulated my opinion on a lot of different areas. First of all, I heard doctors. They made a noise. They came up the ward and they jingled. There was a sort of bell sound coming out of them. They had very deep pockets in their white coats. Inside their top was a stethoscope and maybe a prescribing journal. But in the bottom there was coins. And those coins were used to prefer to patients' parents when they were telling them bad news. So I saw my mum accepting coins from a doctor, and I wondered what was going on here. And then I realized my mum went to the end of the ward and went inside what looked like a mushroom. It was a privacy screen, and my mum put the coins in and called people. And I saw that the most powerful technology in one of the world's best hospitals was a telephone at the end of the ward that provided you access to billions of dollars worth of infrastructure for the cost of just 10 pence. You could call someone at the Mayo Clinic and ask them, I've seen this rare condition, what's going on? And today, I think the amazing thing is we have every single person in Istanbul with a phone with the capacity to dial a number and talk to Barack Obama. I think this, we haven't even started to monetize and understand the capacity that's around us. And there it is. That's what that telephone looked like. And today, skip forward to 1995, and I was enrolled at medical school, and I was the only person with a mobile phone. And my experience with that mobile phone was that it was such a new thing. If you look very closely, the mobile phone actually said on it that it was a cellular telephone, because people used to ask me, what is that? Now, this phone was bought. It was very, very expensive. It was like the price of a second-hand car. And it was bought by my brother, who was a veterinary surgeon, and I had convinced him that he could use it for his business model as a vet, because he wouldn't have to go back to the answer machine and listen to messages and then go back out on call visiting people in their homes to their animals. But my brother could see no social reason to have the phone. So unless he was on call, I had the phone. He literally saw no social. Back in '95, the social idea of having a mobile phone, what would you want one of them for? And now it's a very predominant role. And in the future, what we're going to have is a predominant role is going to be a healthcare role. So at the moment we interact with our phones, in 10 years' time, think of our phones interacting with us, becoming very personal. So in 2006, seeing this mobile opportunity, after experiencing some studies of medicine and practice of medicine, I launched a company called 3G Doctor. The slogan was, the doctor can see you now. We saw that this is the key value proposition for patients the world over, the ability to engage with a doctor at a time and a place that's convenient and at an economic cost point that was possible for them. This is really the service. It's documented mobile video consults with a doctor, registered doctor. So if you take anyway, this is what 3G Doctor offer. The cost is 24/7, £35 sterling, which is about 120 lira. I'm sure you can do better calculations than I. The service works like this. You simply go to the 3G Doctor website on your PC, on your tablet, on your mobile phone. You register there, you fill in your information. You top up your account before you use the service, and you pay using any of these electronic payment methods. You then create or share a personal record, health record, So you can share with us your health vault record. Microsoft are going to give a talk today. Please listen to that. This is a very disruptive thing when we connect healthcare records. You think you might know about healthcare records, but when they're connected, they become different. You then share your concerns by completing an interactive medical history questionnaire. This was developed over 20+ years in the US. We licensed this and adapted it for mobile. It's a product called Instant Medical History, and it takes from a patient all the key historical information that's necessary for a doctor and documents them so that they're presented to the doctor in a standardized format. This really helps patients communicate because they're not trained to give a history. What it also does is it provides the doctors with an opportunity to interact digitally with patients. So email has been a categorical failure with patients and doctors, because if you give a patient a blank page and you say fill it in, they either write 3 words or 3 pages. Patients aren't trained to know what's important, what symptoms are important. One of the other challenges is when doctors take histories, they omit, when they're documenting, symptom information, so that's commonly lost. If a doctor doesn't think it's important that you're reporting chronic pain, it might not be recorded in your notes. And so very often going forward, the notes don't show the true representation of the patient. But when you give a patient the opportunity to exactly document what's said, at the end of that questionnaire, they also have the opportunity to share any additional information they feel is important. This is key, because there are millions of hours of YouTube videos made by very, very eminent experienced medical professionals. And it's very hard today for patients to discuss them with a doctor. So try going to your doctor next time and bring a video and watch what happens. The doctor just doesn't know how to work with it because you've got this office experience, and what are you going to do? Spend that small, valuable amount of time watching a YouTube video. Most doctors have never done that. With our service, not only is that a fundamental asset of what we're providing, the opportunity to discuss, but we also try to make our doctors provide every patient, when they leave us, with at least 1 or 2 videos. So not only are you giving videos, sharing videos and online website content with your doctor, but we're also sharing it back with patients. It's a very fundamental thing. It's only when you experience it that that becomes clear. A doctor then reads and reviews this information you shared and conducts any necessary research before video calling you. Currently, we have this revolving door system where patient comes in, presents his problem, doctor has to calculate and work from his experiences and get the patient out the door all in real time. This is unfair, and it's not giving just respect for the patients who are doing research before they come to the doctor. So the patients are doing research, but the doctor doesn't have time to understand this research or listen to this patient about their things or do their own research, because a lot of doctors feel uncomfortable researching things on the internet in front of patients, because that often shows that maybe they don't know this topic as well as their patients. So this is another fundamental change, which I think is going to be commonplace in healthcare in the future. The video consultation that comes to the patient normally lasts around about 10 minutes. And that's where the doctor talks to the patient, introduces themselves, the problem, challenge, and some takeaways. What's following that, though, is that afterwards the patient simply logs in to view, download, and print a comprehensive written consultation report. That's all the information you shared with the doctor, the websites and everything, plus the doctor's advice, plus what the doctor's recommending, and in there's some links to other content that you might find interesting. So very often a patient will find the doctor's giving them a 30-minute video that's precisely about the concerns they have. It didn't cost our doctor any time to find that information, merely the doctor signposting that. In the previous talk, this was, one of the things that was being said, that how are we not monetizing this opportunity we have to signpost these patients? It's not all about tests. Very often, it's just about saying to a patient, this is the resource, this is the content you should be looking at. And that's something that's missing a lot in healthcare the world over. So making sure that the next move you make is the right one is really the key takeaway of patients who are using us. And after every consultation, we also ask patients for their feedback. We say, how was this experience? Is there anything you would recommend we do different? Let's see if we can improve this service. So we're selling the documented advice of a registered doctor, and because there's no pressure to do tests or run things, we're really in that opportunity talking with that patient. We have a business model that isn't linked to doing things to you. So we're also trying to stem that tide of overdiagnosis, of overtreatment, which is causing its own epidemic. But one of the key things to take away is that we're not a replacement for a family doctor, and services like this shouldn't be. That's the best place for you to get your care, but lots of patients don't have it. If you're one of the guys who lives in Istanbul and you're from Ankara, you'll know that your family doctor's back at home, but when you get these health concerns, the ability to talk to a doctor is key, because we can bring you back into talking with the right, most appropriate person. We're not selling prescriptions. We've actively chosen not to sell prescriptions because we believe the informational opportunity with a doctor is so valuable that even to start addressing that is too big an opportunity for a small company like ours. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask you a question. First of many. Hands up if you have a good doctor. Does anybody in this room have a good doctor? I'm so far looking at 4%, 5%, 10%. Okay, about 10%. So I'm going to ask you, please, how do you know your doctor's good? Shout out, anyone who's got any answers. We don't know. Anyone know how do you know your doctor's? She's a wife. How do you know your doctor's a good doctor?
24 saat bütün sorunlarımla ilgileniyor.
Because he spends hours, sorry. Yeah?
24 saat bütün sorunlarımla ilgileniyor. Hatta ilaç yazmamak için yemeklerimi sağlığa uygun olarak yapıyor.
For cares 24 hours to you. Okay. So this is something that availability. That's what we're talking about there. So any other things that you know your doctor's good? Often people say they're available, they're there, they spend time with me. None of these are very, very good judges of is a service good. They're how we deliver the service, not the quality of the... And what we've actually developed in healthcare throughout the world, and it will be the same here, is this inability to define how we know the doctor's good. We know they're good because they're qualified, because they're experienced, because they have lots of patients, because they have a nice office. But what we've actually devised is a failed solution of malpractice as a solution to protect patients. We know our doctors are good because they haven't been struck off. This is one of the key things, the tenets that you know, that your doctor is accountable to his colleagues, peers. But actually what we need to move towards, and this is the real opportunity with digital technology, is that documentation is the best way to measure the effectiveness of care. If every time you went to a doctor, you were given a piece of paper that told you exactly what was said and what was shared with you, and you went away with that, that would actually drive a lot of duplication of effort, and it would motivate people to actually get more concise information down that would be more constructive for patients to take away. And this is one of, obviously, way I've demonstrated where you can use the patient to do the documentation. This is the person who's most engaged with the documentation process, most keen on it. But also, if you look towards some of the challenges, ePatient Dave, please look up his website and just look at the challenge. Give me my damn data. A lot of people are talking about what if we can access our data? What then happens? Well, if you see what we've done at 3G Doctor, you'll see that actually what we've started with was a read-write approach to the EHR. So the EHR is not you as a doctor, it's created by the patient. Having the patient the ability to actually write and edit that is actually a new idea for the healthcare industry. But patient expectations are changing, and they've changed radically over the last few years. If you look at how a patient is spending their time in a clinic, seeing the doctor is this small little chunk, but a lot of it is reading out-of-date magazines, filling in paper forms, talking to the administrative staff in the clinic. And if you look at what's happening now, what patients are doing after the consultation, they're Googling the wrong things. They're worried, they're uncertain. They're trying to remember things that the doctor told them. And this is going to change when we document care. And I'm going to explain to you by showing you how poorly an experience can be when it's undocumented. So this is your car. It's completely undocumented fueling process. Let's just imagine we had the petrochemical industry believe it could be, in 2013, undocumented. So you went to your petrol tank. You had no fuel gauge when you were driving in the car, because that's documentation. That tells you how much is in there. So not working fuel gauge. So you don't know when you need to get petrol. You don't know how big the tank is. So you just stand there for a period of time, not knowing how much fuel. When you're driving on the road, it doesn't tell you the prices. You see the world over, you've got the prices, because that's documentation telling you value, cost of this liquid. There's no pricing information on the pump. There's no octane levels on the pump. It's completely undocumented. I'm just going to randomly pick the pump and put it in my car. There's no idea how much it cost until you get your bank statement at the end of the month. Could you imagine how few people would go for a Sunday drive? It just wouldn't happen. We would think, you know, this idea, if an undocumented experience, would just transform how we use transport. We'd be very frugal. We'd be very mistrusting of going somewhere, that it might cost us a lot of money or whatever. And if you look at how people would use a service that was undocumented like that, you will see this type of experience. Very, people self-rationing, people being very conscientious about the way they use a service. People find it hard to engage with these petrol companies. And that's what healthcare has. Healthcare has a fundamental engagement problem. And undocumented care itself fails to engage patients and helps them be convinced to be working with other things that are more engaging. What we need to do is redesign healthcare so that it's so engaging, patients want to engage with it. So I'm going to now show you some of the ways mHealth is a game changer because it enables affordable access to care and it transforms what this all means. Now, this is something I would really encourage everyone to read. It's Escape Fire by Donald Berwick, and it really defines how different we need to think about healthcare. We need to think about total access to healthcare. We need to think about how when we can all agree that the product we choose to make is not visits. It is healing relationships. It's how these healing relationships can be fashioned in new and wonderfully different ways if we start by suspending the old ways of thinking, this is what makes sense for care. So think of that petrol station experience. Think of how that wouldn't engage you. Think that that's actually what healthcare looks like from an outsider. What is mHealth? mHealth is the newest and the leverage of this newest mass media for health. What is a mass media? A mass media that is as different from all the previous. So we've had the internet, the TV, the radio, the cinema, the recordings, the printed. We've had the internet. We've had all these previously. And each one is different from the ones before. Mobile is very unique in that you can do many of the old mass media, like you can read a magazine, you can watch a movie on your mobile device. But it's also got some very unique attributes as a mass media. And these are very worth understanding because when you leverage these new mass media unique attributes, you find that you make very compelling experiences. Mobile also has $1 trillion industry. That's why this innovation is happening so quick. This is the newest $1 trillion industry. The R&D budget for your next phone is over 100 million. Massive technology push to bring new chip features like Intel, the sponsor of this event, are doing to bring technology onto this hardware that will be more and more sensory, more and more personal, more and more computing about you. And we've passed a mobile moment where most people, where people in the world are smaller, the number of people in the world is smaller than the number of mobile subscriptions. So this is now nothing like any of the old mass media where access was difficult or only prohibitively because of economics, only the rich people could afford it. And healthcare roles have actually been fundamental to the adoption of mobile. So if we look to this $1 trillion industry and we say, why did it so quickly grow, this rapid growth, we can look and we can see things like, ringing emergency services was a key driver. The ability to never be on your own if you were elderly or you staying connected with your elderly mum there was a lot of healthcare roles which drove. And we've actually lived through a decade which we will look at in the future as the Nokia decade. So people call these the noughties and everything, but no. This was a decade that was defined by a Finnish technology company. And you think, what happened there? And that faded away, that company. So, what's the next decade going to show? And my belief is that it's this convergence to mobile that's made the mobile the cannibal of cannibal, where we've seen the camera, we've seen the gaming device, we've seen the music player, we've seen the alarm clock, we've seen the pager. You can't think of a consumer technology that hasn't in some shape or form converged with the mobile phone already. What's going to happen in the next decade is this convergence is redesigning healthcare. So if we look to some of these senior phones with high contrast screens, this convergence is really compelling because you can put this into the hands of someone who's unconnected today. And this is the biggest opportunity we have globally to reduce future healthcare costs. It is in bringing mobile data services to senior citizens. That's where the healthcare budgets are spent. This is an obligation we all have to our seniors, to teach them, to bring them along with us on this mobile journey. Because some of the technologies I show you that work on smartphones will in the future work on very basic, easy-to-use phones. So these converging technologies, these applications that everyone says, you know, it's a minefield, there's millions of applications, which one's good? As Senka's already shown you, the ones that go native are the ones that are being recognized. And now we have this very great way of identifying successful applications. It's called the App Store, and the companies that are delivering these apps know which ones are good, know which ones are popular, and then they're bringing them native to the device. So S-Health would be a great example where 20 million phones have been sold by Samsung in the last few months with a native healthcare application on it. And the only reason Samsung put that on is because they saw that's what consumers wanted to do. In the old days, it was R&D blokes sitting in a room thinking, what would people like? Now they see what people would like from the trends in the app stores. And this convergence is already redesigning healthcare. So please come up and have a look at what it looks like when you have a full medical library on a mobile phone. And I can look through all my textbooks. I can carry my entire library, drag it with me just on this little mobile phone. This is transformational if you go back in time, or you go to an African village today where there's a small memory stick inside a mobile phone that has a full medical library. They can't supply them all the medical devices and the test kits and all this, but they can supply them in this small chip, this connectivity that gives you all this medical reference textbooks. Now, when I went to medical school, we were selling second-hand books. This is a very expensive part of going to medical school. You had to buy these books. This is really reducing access costs to healthcare information and making sure people are reading the best literature. Also, the power of this stuff that's animated. Check out a company called 3D for Medical. This was Steve Jobs' M-Health showcase. When Steve Jobs wanted to say how the iPad was going to transform healthcare, he showed 3D for Medical. He showed it being used in an Indian village. Check it out on their website. You'll see the YouTube video. It's groundbreaking. It shows you how much we can give by developing bleeding-edge technology, how much we can give to people who you wouldn't think would be the natural target market for that. But anatomy there. This is a little product called Little Green Button. It's beautiful. It means that healthcare workers are safe. It means that your mum can communicate with you. You just press a button on your phone. It's like on the senior phones, this is a native hardware button. You can see on this phone, this presses a button, but you can have this on your healthcare worker phone. And what it means is your community health visitor can just press a button and get assistance. And someone else who's in the area can find them via GPS. This is the S-Health that already has been mentioned. This is over 20 million devices already sold. Watching your pedometer, helping people just get general trends, picking up temperatures and things like that in your home. In Japan, one of the things the doctors do is when a senior comes in, they look at their phone and they all have native pedometer on there, and they look and they see how active they've been, and it charts it. And you immediately see how this senior citizen has been in getting out and about. Also things like temperature. Can you imagine the power of knowing the temperature of your mum's home in a heat wave, or in a cold winter in Canada or somewhere? Convergence is already Motion X. So if you have sleep problems, try out Motion X. There's a free example. This is the best-selling mobile healthcare apps on the Apple App Store worldwide. I don't believe it's available in Turkey. We tried to find it when I was over here on your Turkish store, but you obviously, if you're English, you can read the version from there. I'm sure demand will pick up when they see Turkish demand for this. But this just lets you get an idea of how you're sleeping. The man who invented this, he did a trans-Pacific sail. and he set a new record for two-man trans-Pacific sail because he'd worked out how to optimize the quality of his sleep by using this tracking technology. And I think that really shows you, athletes are all using this stuff. Your football teams and stuff are already getting into this stuff. This is where your real money is, though. The real money here is in pharmaceutical. So if you look to Walgreens in the first 18 months of launching their mobile service, I'm not talking apps, I'm talking just SMS services and things like that, they made more money in that 18 months than they had made in a decade of Walgreens.com. Over £500 million will be made this year in the States via mobile refills for them. So we're talking about silly, simple things like repeat prescriptions. Don't worry if you think that SMS is, maybe something your patients or your hospital or your clinic aren't going to be inclined to, feel. No one's ever going to ring you up and complain. They already get text messages from their taxi driver, from their hairdresser. This is normal society. Now this is coming to healthcare. Just the ability to be able to text and have my refill sent to me. How simple, how creative, and what a change it makes for patients. They offered this before on the website, but this isn't something patients want to do. I'm going to go on and drum around. This is like voting for Pop Idol or one of these celebrity TV programs. Diabetes is now a key target area of this. It's a chronic disease that can be managed very well, and WellDoc's doing some great things. It's now become like an application that can be prescribed by a doctor in America. So, this is a fundamental change in how we used to prescribe medications. We can now prescribe services, mobile health services. Some of this technology is going to really transform how we think. So on this new Samsung S4, it's got a product called Smart Scroll. And it monitors my eyes to see if I'm looking, and then it dims the screen. It's primarily doing it to save battery on the screen. But what it's also doing is a neurological test on my eyes. So if I had a stroke, my phone would pick it up. But the problem is, Samsung are in a position where they can't advertise any medical thing with this. So we now have a thing where the mobile phone is already a very sophisticated way of doing neurological tests on my eyes, but we're not leveraging it. So we're already behind a curve with what we can potentially do. This is things very early, like picking up things like strokes and stuff like that. Weighing scales that connect to your mobile phone. Some people are getting really good results with this. It's just helping them be more mindful, helping them trend, taking away any paper journaling. Same thing with blood pressure cuffs, trying to manage your blood pressure. It's terrible if you have to keep jotting stuff down, just making this smart. This is a great device. You simply put this onto the back of your iPhone, and you hold it like this, and you get an ECG, single lead ECG. I've picked up arrhythmias screening at events like this. So if you'd like an ECG, come up afterwards, and you just hold your fingers on here, you see the ECG. It gets shared remotely with a cardiologist, and it's a great thing as a doctor to do when a patient comes in. You just hand it to your patient while you're doing some of the administrative stuff on the computer, and your patient gets screened for things like AF, which is quite common in patients who are over 65 and on multiple medications. We see a lot of young patients who are on anticonvulsive drugs and things like this, and one of the common side effects is a heart rhythm problems, and these can be picked up. This is a really simple thing. Think of mobile as, in 5 years, everything that should be connected will be. In the next decade, everything that should be connected will be connected. So this is going to start with very simple things. Sensors you already have in your home that you can just connect. So this is a smoke alarm, simple smoke alarm. I open this little door, put my Acibadem SIM card in there, clip it back up and put it on my mummy's roof. Now, whenever the battery's low, I get a message. If a smoke alarm or a CO is detected in my mum's house, I also get a message. I can also have it send a message to the fire brigade, to the personal healthcare record with Health Vault. I can also have it send to the next door neighbors who can come and give her assistance. But just think of the value of that in terms of just making us more secure, of mobile actually bringing us more inclusive in society, helping people who've got things like hearing problems. So this can also text to mummy's phone. A mummy's phone can have a 100 decibel ringtone, so it wakes her up. One of the first parts of your hearing that goes when you get old is the pitch of a smoke alarm. It's a very sad thing. This actually prevents that happening. Health Vault, you're going to get some great demo of that. This is a great product. I'm going to show you a video about it. This is what happens when you put a SIM card inside a, can we roll the video? Yeah? And when you put a SIM card inside a glucometer.
Well, this Telcare blood glucose monitoring system here was released just weeks ago, and it certainly makes managing diabetes a whole lot easier. This here can actually communicate with your iPhone, with your family and doctors in just seconds. Now comes the first ever FDA-approved wireless capable glucose meter made by Telcare. It talks to your iPhone, iPad, and doctors instantly.
I can get on my iPhone and I can go to my Telcare and I can look and it will tell me what my blood sugars have been.
In just 5 seconds, Casey could see her blood sugar levels on her iPhone app. The results are sent immediately to a private online database without Casey ever having to manually plug it into a computer to upload data. The readings can also be accessed on a password-protected website by anyone who has permission, like family members or doctors.
For the device just to send the blood sugars for you and take out that extra step, it's fantastic.
So we're seeing the Google Glasses. One of the things I'd like to show you is how you can do a lot of this stuff just with voice. So you put this on. I've got it recording at the moment. It's backing up to my laptop. It's going to transcribe my entire talk and make it available in a few minutes. Imagine what happens when we bring this technology that's being used by bleeding edge innovators and we make it a hearing aid. So deaf granddad has supersonic hearing, Superman hearing. Imagine when I can talk to my mobile phone instead of typing in on the questionnaire at 3G Doctor, and my phone can take a history and share it with the doctor, and I can have a natural language conversation with my phone. Well, when that happens, we won't call this mHealth anymore. This will merely be mobile. This will be a mobile experience, and we will just look to our mobile like we look to our mobile when we want to book tickets or we want to book a flight. And that's really the future we're going for, where mobile and healthcare converge. You're going to see these slides on SlideShare. If there's any contribution, please come find me on Twitter, find me on LinkedIn, and let's keep this dialogue going. If you need any help, you want to see any examples of this stuff, I'm always welcome to help this innovation get all over the world. Thanks very much for the...
Efendim soru hemen hızlı sorular lütfen.
And thank you for being able to execute this idea. I'm sure there were a lot of complicated processes than you have just explained to us here. So I would like to know about your little bit business model, as Cenk Bey encouraged us to ask more about the business models and financials and so. So I would look, are you planning to, or maybe right now maybe you're doing, charging patients or charging physicians or some cooperation with some hospitals? And the second question is, how would you, planning to incorporate pharmaceutical industry to, if you're planning to your model? Because, the industry is kind of sensitive on health records and, adverse events and so on. So that was the second question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, so the first question, just addressing really what our business model is. A lot of our doctors actually work from home, so we don't have the normal costs that would be associated with a clinic. In the UK and Ireland, we have 8,000 female doctors who are currently on extended maternity leave. These are qualified, registered doctors who aren't working because they can't do the job. They don't feel they can do the job. So you're pregnant and you don't want to sit in an A&E ward with drunk people who are carrying infectious disease. It's quite normal, it's quite common. So what we're doing is we're creating new working opportunities for a very different profile of doctors. So in the UK and Ireland now, most of the doctors qualifying are female. They're looking for part-time jobs. No one's even talking about the idea for home working. If you go to the second question, which was, how do we deal with the regulatory issue around, so our business model is easy. We charge patients, they pay us. It's lucrative enough for home working doctors. So it's never a challenge to make money. we could create demand, we've got plenty of doctors to supply it. Same as you've got in Turkey. Thousands of doctors who are inactive today in rural parts of Turkey, quiet days, and they'd love to talk to people in Istanbul. The second part is the regulatory part. We find that actually patients are more concerned about the privacy of patient records than doctors. So many patients contact us because they don't want this going on their medical record. People who are concerned about mental health problems are very common to do that. People who are worried about sexual health problems, who are in married relationships, don't want the family doctor who treats their wife. You know, it's a very common thing that patients are more concerned about the regulatory, you know, where this information's going. So they actually like us to be siloed. They like us to provide them with information and documentation that they can take to the doctor under their own control. And that's something that I think it would be great for healthcare providers to provide documented care, but when you're the only person in the market who's providing patients with full record of what they said and what the doctor said, you find that you're actually operating in a different space. So
Some other questions?
Congratulations for your kind presentation, first of all. I have two questions about mobile healthcare savings. There are definitely some savings for using mobile health solutions in some countries. The first question is, how about the ratios of this savings, the percentages of the savings? The second question is, how many years we need to get this kind of savings also?
Okay, so one of the examples I gave you, which is a very early example where the mobile healthcare saving was in the retail pharmacy. So actually retail pharmacy in the last decade, business model was wiped out in the West by camera development services. So 10 years ago, they used to make, they were told it was everyday low prices in supermarkets that took away their business model. But actually what it was the footfall that they used to get from us picking up film, bringing film in to get developed, going back to pick up the film. We were always going to the high street chemist, and that was giving us opportunity to look in his shelves and buy stuff. When he lost that role in the local community because of Facebook and because of mobile camera phones, digital photography, what's now happened is he doesn't have the footfall, so his prices have gone up. So he missed out. What he should have done is started selling camera phones to replace his photo development services in the pharmacy. But they've missed that opportunity, but they're not going to miss it this time. So the big pharmacy retailers are really impacting this. They realize the easiest way to get a patient to engage with them is via mobile phone. So they're in there, and what they're doing is they're removing the massive administrative cost that it would normally come with. So I have to go with a piece of prescription, get it off the doctor, go to someone else. So you're just cutting out all that administrative chunk. And so a lot of the time what you'll find is a shifting cost. Now this is a nightmare if you're not leading that shifting cost, because it's often your money going somewhere else. So someone was making money printing these prescriptions and fulfilling them and all of that. Now you just go to your mobile phone, punch in some numbers, and it gets sent to your mail address and billed to your insurer. So a lot of this is just very, very effective streamlining. In developing countries and countries where it's, you know, there wasn't the cost to have these exorbitant paper-based systems like Kenya, they're just going straight to doing this. This just looks like the obvious way to fulfill a prescription order. So the business model can be tough if you're not innovating, but if you're innovating, it's all yours to grab and your market share to grab. So you're fortunate that you've got people like Cenk here to give you events like this where you can actually see what's going on and where the needle is, so you can be on the receiving end of the advantages of removing this administrative thing. We couldn't do this with computer though, because computer wasn't inclusive in society. The senior patients who are making these, the average age at Walgreens of their user is 60 plus, 65 plus, average age. That couldn't have happened with the internet. We never had access that was anywhere like that with the senior audiences.
I'd like to ask about, if I understand your business model correctly, you're registering or recruiting doctors, and you collect private patient data. So do you have some kind of authority approval or endorsement like NHS for this, or you can just do it by law?
So doctors are in, I don't know the situation currently here in Turkey, but in the UK and Ireland, doctors are self-regulating. So as long as they can justify what they're doing, with the documentation process, it makes this very easy for us to justify what we're doing, because it's all there in black and white. So a doctor's allowed to practice privately in the UK and Ireland, same in Ireland, so we don't have a challenge with, there's plenty of scope for talking with patients. It's not a regulatory problem in any way. Some of our doctors will work in the NHS and then work in private service. So they might do this on the weekend to top up their money for the week. So they're mixing and matching.
Great.
3G doctor would have been much more complete with the prescriptions involved. Can you elaborate more why that was left out? The prescriptions.
Yes, because we're an informational service. So we believe the best place for a lot of people with their health concerns is their family doctor. But they're not going there because the doctor's not open he's only open 9 to 5, because the waiting list, because they don't feel comfortable, because they're living away from home. So we're providing them a channel to get back into healthcare. We don't want to say, when you start going into prescriptions, you find prescription-seeking behavior, for a start. So people who want a prescription will go to you. With us, you can only go to us for a conversation with an independent doctor. If that's what you want, if you want the advice of a doctor, and a lot of people are coming to us for second opinions. So for them, they don't want a prescription. They've already got plenty of doctors who can give them prescriptions. What they want from us is an honest, independent. And if they thought we were selling them prescription, it would also cloud that independence. We're giving you our advice based on the information you're giving us and our personal, and that's something that patients seek because they're looking for that quality reassurance, If that makes sense.
Avrupa'da ve İrlanda'da müşteri profili nasıldı? Yani aboneleriniz yaşlı, genç, sağlık durumları o konuda kısa.
The profile of patients, very mixed. A lot of people asking for other people, we find. People asking, the mum's having a hip operation and they want to have an idea about hip operation, or their mum's got Parkinson's and they want to talk to someone about Parkinson's, and they can't go to their doctor, their mum's doctor, and say, can I talk about my mum's Parkinson? Because the doctor says, no, because you're not my patient. So a lot of it is, mums, daughters who are inquiring about that, and then other people with private things that they don't want to talk, or they don't want to question their doctor. A lot of people find still there's a challenge of going to the doctor with information they got off the internet because they're not doctor. So them questioning that person's professional status and judgment is a challenge.
I have a question about the business model that you mentioned before. I would like to see your stance regarding the Clinic U concept in UK. What's your difference and how do you intend to survive against this Clinic U concept? It's an online EMR concept which is grabbing all over the world right now. I would like to get an answer to the question of how do you want to, or how do you plan to stand against such a model with
I think you're talking about Bupa, is that right? Bupa.
Yes.
Yeah, Bupa is a private healthcare insurance, so most people in the UK don't have Bupa coverage. So to have Bupa coverage, you have to be paying subscriptions and things like this, or your employer has to be paying them. With our service, you pay as you use it. So it's much more designed like a mobile service. Pay as you go, You pay, the doctor sees you. You don't have to commit to using this service for 6 months before you can access it. So this is paying at the point of care rather than like an insurance policy, if that makes sense. So employers come to us and say, can you bring this in? Because their health insurance would charge them so much money to do this, because they say, well, we've got 20,000 patients, and so Bupa pluck a number out of their hair and say, well, we cover them for this service at this cost, whereas with us, they only pay for what they use, which is a much better way of controlling costs. So it's very different, it's like the concierge medicine. Billionaires go around and they can video call doctors all day, but as a member of the public, these services aren't accessible to you because you've got to put big money down. So it's a different price point, really. With a price point, we're talking more everybody, much more inclusive service. They're talking of a service where you have to have quite considerable means to be able to afford it. Thank you.
Oriented, price sensitive on this part, and that is the.
Sorry, Andonis. Sorry for that. If you have any question more than that, please find them during the lunch or in the coffee shops. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, David.
Really
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks, Ed.